9 signs your soul is rising, but no one told you. Who looks outside? Dreams. Who looks inside? Awakes. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like you're changing on a soul level, but no one warned you what it would feel like? In today's video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll explore 9 powerful signs your soul is rising based on the timeless insights of Carl Jung. These aren't just theories. They're invitations to grow, to awaken, and to live more consciously. As you watch, think about how these signs may already be showing up in your life. Have you experienced any of them? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. And if this message speaks to your journey, don't forget to like and share it with someone who needs this awakening too. Your soul's evolution is not a mystery, it's a map. Let's decode it together. Sign 1. The awakening pain. Spiritual awakening doesn't begin with light. It begins with pain, deep, confusing, unshakable pain that disrupts the comfort of your old life. You start to feel lost in familiar places, emotionally detached from routines, and unsure of who you are becoming. This discomfort is not a failure or a breakdown. It's the first spark of your transformation. Carl Jung taught that when the soul stirs, the shadow emerges. This shadow isn't evil. It's simply everything you've pushed aside, your unacknowledged truths, buried wounds, and suppressed feelings. Awakening demands that you turn inward and meet this shadow face to face. The moment you do, the mask begins to crack. The persona you built to survive the roles you played, the versions of yourself you performed, begin to dissolve. You may feel like your old identity is dying. That's because it is. Emotional chaos floods the surface. You cry easily, feel everything more intensely, and question everything you once believed. But this storm isn't destructive, it's cleansing. In Jung's view, what looks like a breakdown is actually the ego falling apart to make space for your real self. The inner tension, the war between your past self and your rising soul, is painful but necessary. From that friction, the true self is born. At this stage, emotions you buried in childhood come back with force. Memories you forgot begin to haunt your waking moments. Tears fall for reasons you can't explain. But none of this is weakness. These are signs your heart is healing. You're no longer numbing yourself to survive. You're feeling to evolve. Even your dreams change. They become symbolic, strange, filled with archetypes and messages that seem to come from somewhere beyond reason. According to Carl Jung, dreams are communications from the unconscious, offering insight and guidance as your inner world reshapes itself. You may dream of old homes, mysterious strangers, or events that feel prophetic. These aren't coincidences, they're spiritual signposts. As your awareness deepens, your sensitivity to energy skyrockets. You begin to sense truth without needing words. You know when someone is hiding their intentions, or when a space feels heavy with unspoken emotion. You no longer tolerate lies, manipulation, or shallow conversations. Being around inauthentic people drains you in ways you never noticed before. This isn't a flaw. It's your spirit protecting itself from misalignment. The ego resists this process with everything it has. It clings to old roles, urges you to go back to what's familiar, and tells you that you're losing control. But in reality, you're gaining something far greater, the clarity of your soul. As the masks fall away and the inner battle intensifies, a higher version of you quietly begins to emerge, one rooted in truth, not fear. What you're experiencing is not a collapse. It's a reordering, a sacred reconfiguration of everything false so that what's real can finally rise. Carl Jung didn't offer quick answers. He offered a map. And this map leads through the chaos, through the shadow, and into the radiant center of your authentic self. Have you ever experienced a moment of pain that led to a deeper awakening? If yes, share your story in the comments so others can find strength in it. If not, comment, "I'm ready to awaken," and let's walk this transformative path together. Sign 2. Sacred isolation. You grow distant from others not because you've changed too much, but because your soul refuses to pretend anymore. The people who once felt like home may now feel foreign. They might withdraw, misunderstand, or even criticize your silence. But this isn't rejection. It's your soul shedding old skins. Your energy is shifting, and those still living in your former frequency can no longer recognize you. You are not being pushed out. You are being called in. This disconnection is not random. It's deeply spiritual. You're not just losing people, you're losing versions of yourself that were never truly aligned. The familiar becomes uncomfortable. You begin to notice how often you tolerated roles that drained your spirit. Carl Jung called this the beginning of individuation, the sacred psychological process of becoming your true self. Isolation, he believed, marks the start of this journey, not its end. You begin to feel what spiritual wisdom has long known. Sacred withdrawal is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. Just like Buddha under the Bodhi tree or Christ in the wilderness, your solitude is not weakness. It is initiation. You are no longer distracted by the noise of the world. Silence becomes your sanctuary. In that silence, something ancient begins to stir. Your soul starts whispering truths you couldn't hear in the crowd. Your social roles start to dissolve. You're no longer the caretaker, the entertainer, the one who fixes everything. You stop saying yes just to avoid discomfort. And when those roles fade, so do the relationships built around them. It feels like loss, but it's liberation. You realize that some connections depended on your self-abandonment. And the moment you choose truth over performance, things fall apart, but for the right reasons. Being misunderstood becomes familiar. It no longer feels like failure. It feels like a mirror. When others don't recognize you, it's not because you're lost. It's because you're found. Their confusion reflects the parts of you that refuse to shrink anymore. You no longer explain your path, your dreams, or your peace. Not out of arrogance, but because explanation no longer serves the soul. You grieve relationships that once mattered. There's sadness in realizing you can love someone and still outgrow them. Staying would mean dimming your light, and your spirit cannot afford that cost. This grief is sacred. It means you cared. But it also means you're brave enough to choose alignment over attachment. Solitude transforms into something holy. You're no longer lonely. You're fully present. You don't crave company to escape yourself. You crave truth, stillness, and depth. You're drawn to quiet rituals, journaling, walking in nature, staring into the sky. The external world fades, and your inner world finally breathes. And then, without effort, you stop explaining. The more aligned you become, the less you seek permission. You no longer chase validation. You've heard the call of your soul, and that's all the confirmation you need. Have you ever felt set apart for a higher purpose? If this message speaks to your soul, comment below. I embrace sacred isolation. I am being prepared by God. Sign 3. The ego breakdown. There comes a moment in your spiritual awakening when pretending simply becomes impossible. You can no longer fake smiles in rooms that feel hollow, nod along to conversations that drain your soul, or perform roles that once earned you acceptance. The masks begin to slip, not out of rebellion, but because they no longer fit the truth rising inside you. The person you thought you had to be starts falling away, and while the world might see it as a breakdown, something sacred is unfolding within. Your old persona, crafted over years of survival and social expectations, begins to collapse. The achiever, the peacemaker, the rebel, the good girl or golden boy, all become costumes you're no longer willing to wear. There's a strange grief in outgrowing identities that once protected you, but also a quiet liberation. You are not breaking down. You are being stripped down to what is real. This ego breakdown feels like chaos, but it is spiritual surgery. The false identities, the borrowed labels, the stories that no longer serve you, they are being dissolved. It can feel raw, disorienting, even frightening. But within that unraveling is a profound truth. You are not here to be who the world expects. You are here to remember who you really are. You stop caring how you're seen. The approval of others fades into the background as the desire for truth takes center stage. The mirror of public opinion shatters, and in its place stands a deeper reflection, one that doesn't need applause or recognition to feel real. You no longer seek validation. You seek alignment. Emotional honesty rises like a tide that refuses to be held back. You find yourself unable to lie not just to others, but to yourself. The urge to people please crumbles. You can't smile through discomfort or pretend everything's fine. Your inner voice becomes louder than external noise, and peace comes not from pleasing others, but from honoring your soul. The roles you used to play become exhausting. You may try to return to them, to the comfort of familiarity, but your body and spirit resist. You feel it in your chest, in your bones, this deep fatigue that's not physical, but spiritual. It is your soul saying, no more pretending, no more performing, no more hiding behind masks that stifle your truth. You feel vulnerable, even exposed. Emotions you once hid come to the surface, and you might cry more, feel more, speak with trembling honesty. But this rawness is not weakness, it is sacred. It means your heart is awakening. You are reconnecting with your truest self, not the version curated for approval, but the one buried beneath years of social armor. As your outer world feels less stable, your inner world begins to solidify. You make choices from a place of deep knowing. Inner authority replaces the need for permission. You stop asking, will they approve? And start asking, does this align with my soul? You are no longer chasing safety in the external world. You are remembering the sanctuary within. And when the identity crisis comes, and it will, you begin to understand that it's not a sign of failure. It is soul realignment. You are in the liminal space between what was and what is yet to come. It feels like confusion, but it is actually the dissolving of illusion. You are being unmade only so you can rise truer, clearer, freer. This stage of spiritual awakening is not glamorous, but it is holy. The unraveling is part of the remembering. Every piece that falls away is a piece that never truly belonged. What remains is your essence, raw and real, ready to rise. If this message spoke to your soul, subscribe and stay connected with our community of awakening. Here, we explore the layers of the ego to rediscover the truth within. Remember, letting go of who you're not is the first step to becoming who you truly are. Sign 4. Synchronicities. Begin. The sudden emergence of synchronicities, those mysterious coincidences that seem to follow you everywhere. Carl Jung called them meaningful coincidences. And once you experience a spiritual awakening, these moments stop feeling random and start revealing deeper truths. You might keep seeing the same repeating numbers, 1111, 2, 2, 2, or come across the same symbol again and again. A butterfly, an owl, a mirror. These aren't just curious events. They are reflections of your inner world, mirroring your transformation back to you in ways only your soul can understand. The more aware and conscious you become, the more frequently these synchronicities appear. You begin to realize that the world outside is no longer separate from your inner thoughts. You think about someone, and they message you. You dream about a situation, and it unfolds days later. Dreams and waking life start to blur, showing you that inner and outer realities are beginning to merge. According to Jung, this is not a fantasy. It's the manifestation of unus mundus, a unified field of meaning where psyche and matter are interwoven. Your awakening is not only internal, it is also echoed in the world around you. Symbols begin to follow you. Owls may appear when you're uncovering hidden truths. Butterflies flutter into view during times of personal metamorphosis. The more spiritually open you become, the more powerful these messages feel. But Jung would remind us, these signs aren't meant to control your life. They're meant to affirm it. They don't make decisions for you. They validate the deeper alignment you're already sensing. When you feel lost, but then see a symbol that connects to your inner state, it doesn't mean the path is chosen for you. It means you're not walking alone. During this process, archetypes come alive. The hero, the sage, the shadow, the healer, they're no longer just themes and myths or stories. They show up in your dreams, in the people you meet, in the challenges you face. They are your soul's language, expressing the timeless forces that move your personal evolution forward. You might suddenly feel the urge to step up and lead, and then someone calls you a natural guide. That's not random. That's the archetype of the hero awakening within you and the outer world responding. Your thoughts start to echo in reality. You think, I need clarity. And the next podcast you hear is titled, Finding Clarity in Chaos. You wonder about healing, and a book on emotional alchemy lands in your feed. Jung taught that the unconscious becomes conscious through signs like these. It's not magic. It's the deeper structure of reality revealing itself through meaning. This is the true nature of synchronicity, the universe aligning with your inner frequency. The more you believe in these synchronicities, the more they appear. Your belief acts like a tuning fork, vibrating with the unseen world and pulling aligned experiences toward you. But the key is not to obsess over them. These signs aren't a script for you to follow. They are whispers of encouragement. They are confirmations, not commands. Your spiritual awakening is not just an emotional or mental process, it is a lived reality. And as Jung once said, who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. As your soul rises, the signs rise with it, reminding you that you're not just imagining your transformation, you're living it. Are you starting to notice the signs all around you? If synchronicities are showing up in your life, it's not by accident. Comment below. I see the signs to affirm your awakening and join others on this path of deeper awareness. Sign 5. Your vision becomes symbolic. When your soul begins to rise, the world stops being literal. A snake crossing your path is no longer just an animal, it becomes a message, a symbol of transformation or hidden fear. A broken mirror doesn't just reflect shards of glass, it mirrors a fractured self-image or the death of an old identity. Even buildings under construction seem to echo your inner rebirth. These aren't coincidences. Carl Jung believed the unconscious speaks in symbols, and once your awareness shifts, the entire world becomes metaphor alive with deeper meaning. Spiritual wisdom teaches that this isn't imagination, it's perception widening, awakening to the language of the soul. You no longer move through life on autopilot. Instead, you begin to interpret life moment by moment, as if the universe is whispering to you through signs, dreams, and synchronicities. A stranger's words, a song on the radio, or even a recurring number pattern can feel loaded with guidance. Your perception deepens. Myth, archetype, and personal meaning emerge from the everyday. Jung called this symbolic sight a function of the rising self, the part of you that transcends the ego and connects with something eternal. You're not just observing your life, you're decoding it. You are no longer just a character in the story, you're the author, the translator of your own myth. As your vision shifts, you start to live a personal mythology. You become the protagonist in an inner hero's journey. Life is no longer random or flat. It's rich with trials, omens, and awakenings. Every painful event becomes a dark forest to move through. Every moment of clarity is a sacred torch in your hand. You realize that your past wounds weren't punishments. They were catalysts. Spiritual wisdom reminds us that healing doesn't erase the scar. It transforms it into a symbol of strength, like the sword forged by fire. You aren't just surviving, you're being shaped. This symbolic vision can make you feel isolated, especially when others don't see what you see. But that's part of the transformation. You're shedding the need to explain your path. You're learning to trust what feels sacred to you, even if no one else understands it. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that journey often begins in silence, in solitude, in symbolic visions that speak only to you. You begin to walk through life like a mystic with open eyes, decoding hidden truths and remembering that everything, every object, encounter, and emotion is part of your awakening map. If this awakened something within you, make sure to subscribe for more insights on how your inner vision can reveal deeper meaning in the world around you. Sign 6. Deep hunger for meaning. When your soul begins to rise, you start to feel disconnected from the surface-level distractions that once kept you going. Social media loses its appeal. Small talk becomes draining. Routines that once brought comfort now feel like a slow death of the spirit. There's an ache inside you that wants more, not more things, but more meaning. You begin to sense that your old life was never truly yours, just a script handed to you by society. And now, you can no longer pretend it satisfies you. A quiet yet undeniable voice begins to ask deeper questions. Why am I here? What is my soul really meant to express? This isn't a fleeting curiosity. It becomes a burning inner search. You feel that you're being pulled towards something larger, something sacred. You're no longer content with surface answers. You crave truth, depth, and clarity that resonates with your spirit. This is the heartbeat of a spiritual awakening, and it marks a turning point in your life. You begin to see through the illusion of false gods. Money, status, image, these things start to feel empty, even if you once chased them. You realize they held power only because you gave it to them. Now, that power fades. You're not becoming bitter, you're becoming wise. You no longer need approval to feel worthy. You no longer need to perform to feel valuable. This inner shift isn't about abandoning the world. It's about not being enslaved by it. Instead of chasing external rewards, you turn inward. Philosophy, spiritual wisdom, sacred texts, they suddenly come alive for you. You seek answers not in trends, but in timeless truths. You're drawn to conversations that nourish your soul, not just your ego. This hunger for meaning becomes the compass of your life, guiding you toward what's real and away from what's hollow. Even success, in the traditional sense, begins to feel strange. Goals that once gave you motivation now feel disconnected from your essence. You may still pursue achievement, but now it must align with your soul. If it doesn't, it feels lifeless. You're no longer willing to sacrifice your truth for approval. You want to live a life that feels sacred, not just impressive. In the quiet moments, you find something new: peace. You begin to cherish silence, ritual, stillness. You feel more at home in nature than in crowded rooms. Prayer, breath, solitude. These are now your sacred companions. You don't need noise to feel alive. You need connection to the divine. You sense that real power doesn't shout, it whispers. Then something profound happens. You start to see your life as a myth. The betrayals, the breakdowns, the times you thought you were cursed, now you see them as part of a larger story. You're not just living a life, you're walking the path of the hero. The exile had a purpose. The fall was a lesson. And the return is your becoming. You finally understand that you were never lost. You were being reshaped into someone who could hold more light. This deep hunger for meaning is the soul's awakening cry. And once it begins, you can never return to sleep. Comment below, "I am hungry for meaning," if you feel the deep call to live with purpose and awaken your soul to something greater. Sign 7. Dreams become a guide. Dreams become louder when your soul begins to rise. They stop being random and start becoming clear messages from your unconscious, guiding you toward inner transformation. According to Carl Jung, dreams are not just fragments of imagination. They are sacred signals from the psyche. When you're on a path of spiritual awakening, your inner world starts to speak through symbols that bypass logic and reach directly into your soul. A house in a dream may represent your inner self. A snake might carry both the fear and power of change. Water speaks the language of emotion. Mirrors confront you with truth. These symbols, seemingly strange, are ancient keys to your healing and growth. Recurring dreams are not to be ignored. They are messages your conscious mind refuses to process. Carl Jung believed that repetition in dreams means urgency. Something important is rising, something you've suppressed. You may keep dreaming about the same room, the same person, or the same escape. That isn't a coincidence. That's the unconscious knocking louder, waiting for you to respond. If you dare to look, to ask why, you'll find that these dreams contain truths you were once afraid to face. When you finally listen, you break a pattern, and that's when transformation begins. Nightmares, too, carry medicine. They are not a sign that you're going backward. They're the call of the shadow. the parts of you you've buried, denied, or forgotten. Jung taught that these dark figures in dreams are not evil. They're powerful truths, disguised as fear. When you run from them, they chase you. When you turn toward them, they offer freedom. A nightmare is not your enemy. It is your teacher. If you awaken from one shaken but curious, then you're doing the real work, integrating the parts of you that have long lived in the dark. That is spiritual wisdom in motion. You may also wake up feeling clearer, more awake, not because of what happened in the dream, but because something hidden finally made itself known. Jung called this the movement toward individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. Each dream you honor, each emotion you feel, each symbol you decode is a step on that path. You're not just sleeping, you're remembering. You're not just dreaming, you're awakening to a deeper version of yourself. Sometimes, archetypes begin to appear. A child, an old wise woman, a shadowy stranger. These are not just characters, they are guides. They are expressions of the universal themes that live within us all. The child might carry innocence or the pain of your past. The elder may offer insight your conscious mind can't access. The shadow may test your courage. Jung believed that meeting these figures in dreams is a powerful sign that you are being initiated into deeper self-awareness. Then comes the moment when the boundary between waking and dreaming fades. You start noticing signs in real life that mirror your dreams. You experience synchronicities that feel like the universe is confirming your intuition. Your life becomes a dialogue between the seen and the unseen. Dreams bleed into daylight. Symbols show up on street signs, in conversations, in the pages of a book. And you realize you are not alone in your growth. Something greater is guiding you, both within and beyond. When this happens, you are living in both worlds. You no longer see dreams as distractions or illusions. You see them for what they are: messages, mirrors, and maps. Your soul is not silent. It's speaking. And your task is to listen, to learn, and to rise. Leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss powerful guidance like this. Your dreams are speaking. Are you listening? Type in the comments, "I trust my dreams to guide me forward." Sign 8, fear of loss, but still going. You fear losing everything. Relationships that once felt eternal, a career you gave your life to, even your own identity. And yet, something deeper inside you refuses to give up. This quiet persistence isn't just resilience, it's spiritual courage. It's the unexplainable trust that moves you forward when there is no evidence things will work out. It's the voice that whispers, "Let go," even while your world is trembling. That's the beginning of transformation, not when everything is perfect, but when you have the strength to release without knowing what comes next. Letting go doesn't mean failure. It means you've outgrown the shell of who you were. And in that letting go, something miraculous happens. The ego, your inner protector that clings to certainty and status, begins to dissolve. In its place, the real self starts to rise. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to allow the old to fall away. The people who no longer walk beside you weren't mistakes. Their exit is not your defeat. It's simply soul divergence. When two paths no longer resonate, the most spiritual act is to bless them and release them in peace. Your old life starts crumbling around you. The job you once loved feels suffocating. Your daily roles lose meaning. Even your hobbies can feel like echoes from a past self. This is not confusion. This is existential metamorphosis. You are shedding the life you were taught to want in order to make space for the life your soul truly desires. What once fit you no longer does, and that's okay. It means your consciousness is evolving. It means your soul is rising. And still, the fear doesn't disappear. It shows up in the quiet hours, disguised as anxiety or uncertainty. But fear isn't the enemy. It's the edge of change. It's the trembling before the breakthrough. When fear visits, it doesn't mean stop. It means you're close. Close to becoming. Close to expansion. Spiritual wisdom tells us that fear often appears strongest right before transformation takes place. The moment you feel like giving up may be the exact moment your true self is about to emerge. With every loss, you begin to gain something far more valuable yourself. Every goodbye, every closed door, every collapse reveals a deeper truth that was hidden beneath the noise. You are not becoming less. You are becoming clear. You are finally remembering who you are beyond the roles, beyond the expectations, beyond the illusions. This is the sacred work of awakening. And yes, there is grief. You grieve the life you once wanted, the dream that didn't unfold, the future that never arrived. But this grief is holy. It's not a failure. It's a necessary death, a spiritual ritual that clears the space for your real life to begin. In that grief, you are not dying. You are being reborn. And in that rebirth, you find something more powerful than control, certainty, or approval. You find truth. If this message speaks to your soul, say it out loud. Even through the fear of loss, I keep going. I trust that what's meant for me will never miss me. Let these words anchor you, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more guidance on your journey. Sign 9. Emergence of the Higher Self. You begin to sense a higher presence, something subtle, yet unmistakably real. It doesn't shout or demand attention, but instead feels ancient, steady, and wise. This quiet voice within guides you not through fear or logic, but through resonance. It's not about hearing actual words. It's about feeling aligned, even when nothing outside you has changed. Carl Jung called this the emergence of the capital S self, the union of the conscious and unconscious mind, the part of you that transcends ego and craves no applause. As this self awakens, you start losing interest in the roles you once played to survive. You no longer seek validation through status, praise, or recognition. You begin to realize that being whole is not about how others see you. It's about how deeply you live from your truth. The more you awaken, the more your decision-making shifts from fear and obligation to inner alignment. You don't act because you're supposed to. You act because it resonates. The pressure to fit in fades, and in its place comes peace, a knowing that your path is not meant to be conventional, but authentic. This shift is not loud or dramatic. It's quiet and liberating. It doesn't make your life easier. It makes it real. You begin to embrace paradox. You realize that joy and sorrow can sit side by side in your heart. Strength doesn't cancel out vulnerability. It deepens it. You stop trying to be only light, only strong, only positive. Instead, you let the full spectrum of your humanity rise. Jung believed that what we resist within ourselves becomes our shadow, and what we embrace becomes integrated. And so, instead of judging your tears or your fears, you begin to honor them. You make space for everything, knowing that your spiritual awakening is not about escaping discomfort, but learning to hold it with grace. The ego wants control, certainty, timelines, but the self trusts You surrender to divine timing, no longer needing to force things into place. You watch as old patterns fall away and new ones emerge, not because you pushed, but because you allowed. In that surrender, life begins to unfold more organically. You stop fighting reality. You begin dancing with it. The world itself starts to look different. You begin to notice meaning in the smallest things. A song lyric, a chance encounter, a symbol that shows up just when you needed a sign. Synchronicity becomes your native language. The universe, once silent, begins to speak directly to your soul. And you realize it was always speaking, you just weren't ready to hear. Eventually, you recognize something holy within yourself. Not in a grand or boastful way, but in those quiet moments when your presence alone feels like a prayer. You stop searching for divinity outside of you. You realize you carry it within. You are not separate from the sacred. You are the sacred. A spiritual awakening is not a destination. It is a return to the essence of who you are. If this message awakens something deep within you, affirm it in the comments. I am ready to rise into my higher self. I trust the divine path unfolding for me. So if you've been feeling the shift disconnected from your old self, yet pulled by something greater, trust it. These signs aren't coincidences. They're invitations. Your soul is rising, quietly, powerfully, and with purpose. And even if no one told you before, now you know. This is not the end. It's your awakening. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next chapter in your journey. Your soul is ready. Stay with us as we rise together. Carl Jung. Why you'll never be free until you know this. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom. In today's video, we're diving deep into a truth that can change everything. You will never truly be free until you understand what's silently guiding your thoughts, behaviors, and choices. Carl Jung's insights are not just philosophy. They are a call to wake up, to explore the hidden patterns within, and to reclaim your power. If you've ever felt stuck, lost, or like something invisible is holding you back, this message is for you. As you watch, reflect on how these principles apply to your own life, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. What part of your unconscious mind are you ready to face today? 1. Your identity is not entirely yours. Most people go through life assuming their thoughts, choices, and desires are entirely their own. But Carl Jung revealed a profound truth. Much of who we are is shaped not by conscious will, but by the unconscious mind. Beneath our awareness lies a hidden realm that quietly governs how we act, what we fear, and even what we long for. Until we confront it, we are merely actors following a script we didn't write. Jung once warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This isn't just psychology, it's a spiritual truth. The very behaviors that limit your freedom, the patterns that keep you stuck, often stem from unexamined wounds, cultural conditioning, childhood programming, and ancestral pain passed down through generations. You think you're choosing, but in reality, your choices are being made for you by forces you haven't yet met within yourself. Imagine someone who's outwardly successful, respected, and disciplined, but deep down, they feel empty and restless. They keep jumping from job to job, relationship to relationship, looking for something they can't name. This person isn't lost because they lack talent or intelligence. They're lost because they don't know themselves. They're being pulled by invisible strings, tied to old pain, inherited fear, and a version of identity built in survival, not freedom. Carl Jung understood that to break free from this cycle, you must be willing to look at your shadow, the parts of yourself you hide, deny, or don't even know exist. These are the rejected emotions, unprocessed memories, and disowned traits that still hold power over your present. Until you integrate them, you remain fragmented, and a fragmented self can't be free. Freedom, in Jung's view, doesn't come from achieving more or becoming someone new. It comes from meeting the parts of yourself you've ignored. It means recognizing that your anger may be a mask for grief, that your perfectionism may be a shield against shame, that your desire for control may come from a childhood where you felt powerless. When you see these truths without judgment, you begin to reclaim yourself. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom. Wholeness isn't about becoming flawless. It's about becoming real. The moment you stop running from what's inside you is the moment you start to truly live. Because when you know what drives you, when you face what scares you, when you hold space for your entire being, you are no longer a puppet of the past. You become the author of your own life. Carl Jung didn't just teach us how to think, he taught us how to awaken. And through that awakening, we begin to understand. Freedom is not found in the world outside, but in the courage to face the world within. Have you ever explored the parts of yourself that operate in silence? If so, share what you've discovered in the comments to inspire others. If not, comment, "I'm ready to meet my true self," and begin the journey within. 2. The shadow. Your repressed self controls you. The shadow is not evil. It's simply everything you've buried, the rage you never expressed, the shame you refuse to admit, the fear you pretend doesn't exist. It's made of all the emotions and traits you deny, reject, or push into the background because they don't fit the image you've built of yourself. But what you suppress doesn't disappear. It festers. And eventually, it finds a way to surface through anxiety, destructive habits, broken relationships, or a haunting sense that something unseen is pulling the strings of your life. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's the silent truth so many ignore. The shadow doesn't scream. It whispers. It influences your choices quietly, shaping how you respond to love, success, failure, and conflict. It decides who you push away, what you fear, and how far you allow yourself to grow. And the more you run from it, the stronger it becomes. You can try to stay positive, say your affirmations, chase achievement, or even spirituality, but if your shadow remains unexamined, you're just building on shaky ground. Spiritual wisdom teaches that the goal is not to become perfect or to rise above your darkness. The goal is to become whole. And you cannot be whole without acknowledging the parts of you that you've left in the dark. Your anger may be the fire that reveals where your boundaries were crossed. Your jealousy might be the compass pointing to what you truly desire but haven't yet owned. Even your fear could be trying to protect a wounded version of you that's never been heard. Consider the man who ruins every healthy relationship that enters his life. On the surface, he's mature, responsible, even charming. But when intimacy deepens, he pulls away or starts unnecessary arguments. It's not bad luck. It's his shadow. Maybe abandonment in his past taught him to fear connection. Maybe vulnerability feels too dangerous. And until he faces those memories and the emotions buried with them, his shadow will keep steering the ship, wrecking every chance at love, while he wonders why he always ends up alone. There is no spiritual awakening without confronting this hidden self. It's not just a psychological journey, it's a spiritual initiation. To look into the shadow is to claim responsibility for your pain, your protection, and your patterns. And in doing so, you begin to break the unconscious loops that have trapped you. Integration doesn't mean those feelings vanish. It means they stop controlling you. You can feel fear without being ruled by it. You can acknowledge envy without letting it poison your relationships. You can hear the voice of shame without letting it define your worth. The path to freedom isn't paved with denial. It's built on awareness, acceptance, and transformation. When you bring light into the parts of you that were once cast aside, you don't just reclaim your power, you become it. That is the heart of spiritual wisdom. To know yourself so deeply that nothing within you remains unloved, and nothing outside you holds the power to define your fate. Are you ready to face your shadow and reclaim your power? If so, comment below. I will face myself to show your commitment to inner truth and transformation. 3. The collective unconscious and archetypes. You are deeply connected to something ancient and vast, the collective unconscious, a hidden reservoir of wisdom and energy shared by all of humanity. This realm is not built from your personal memories, but from timeless symbols and emotional patterns that have existed long before you were born. Carl Jung called these patterns archetypes, universal characters, like the hero, the shadow, the wise one, and the anima or animus. These are not just figures in mythology or art. They are living energies within your psyche, silently shaping your thoughts, choices, desires, and even the people you're drawn to. The hero pushes you toward challenges, toward courage, toward growth. The shadow hides everything you reject about yourself, your insecurities, your rage, your suppressed truths, and projects them onto others. The wise one shows up when you need deeper guidance, not from outside advice, but from your own inner knowing. The anima or animus represents your inner balance of masculine and feminine energies. These archetypes live in your dreams, your stories, your reactions. You don't choose them. They already exist in you. You've seen this without realizing it. That moment when you trust someone instantly or feel a sudden repulsion. That dream where you're chased by a dark figure. That strange pull you feel toward a life path that terrifies you. These are not random events. They're echoes from the collective unconscious. And if you don't recognize them, they will keep playing out in your life like a script written behind your back. As Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Spiritual awakening begins the moment you realize that your suffering, your patterns, your relationships, and your internal battles are not meaningless. They're symbolic. They are signs from your unconscious mind trying to break through. You are not just living your life. You are living a myth, shaped by the stories encoded in your soul. And if you want to be truly free, you must stop running from these stories and start listening to them. When you become aware of the archetypes, you step into your power. You stop blaming others. You stop being confused by your emotions. You begin to ask, who is speaking within me right now, the shadow or the hero? Am I being guided by fear, or by the wise one within. This awareness is the foundation of real transformation. This is spiritual wisdom in action. You were never meant to drift through life unconsciously. You were born to awaken to who you really are beneath the surface. The journey isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering the deep, ancient truths already etched into your being. When you begin to see your life symbolically, when you learn to decode the messages of your inner world, the external world stops controlling you. That is when true spiritual awakening begins. Stay connected to the deeper truth within you. Subscribe to our channel and join a community exploring the hidden forces that shape our lives, archetypes, symbols, and the collective unconscious. Together, we awaken ancient wisdom, uncover inner patterns, and step into conscious living. You are part of something greater. Let's discover it together. 4. Individuation, the path to wholeness. Real transformation begins when you stop chasing who the world tells you to be and start uncovering who you truly are. Carl Jung called this process individuation, a profound journey of becoming whole by integrating the unconscious parts of yourself, especially the shadow. It's not about self-improvement or fixing flaws. It's about remembering and reuniting with the parts of your soul that were buried beneath years of conditioning, fear, and compromise. To individuate is to face the uncomfortable truths you've been avoiding, to let go of the mask you've worn for approval, and to step into the fullness of your authentic self. This is not a path of ease. It requires radical honesty and deep courage. You will meet aspects of yourself that you once rejected: your anger, your envy, your vulnerability, your unmet needs. You'll come face to face with the pain of pretending, with the cost of performing roles just to feel safe or accepted. But what's on the other side is wholeness, the kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, applause, or validation. Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The parts of you you refuse to face are the same ones sabotaging your peace, your relationships, and your freedom. Think of the woman who appears to have it all: career, wealth, admiration, yet feels numb inside. She follows the rules, meets expectations, plays her part. But at night, she's haunted by a deep restlessness, a quiet ache that something essential is missing. That ache is her soul asking her to return. Individuation is the call to answer that ache, to stop performing and start living. It is not a rebellion, it's a reunion with your original essence. The spiritual wisdom at the heart of individuation teaches that healing isn't always light and serenity. Sometimes it's rage, grief, confusion, and letting go of illusions that once gave you a false sense of control. You must break down before you break through. You must dismantle what is false so that what is real can emerge. Wholeness is not perfection. It's integration, the unification of your light and dark, strength and softness, clarity and contradiction. The self isn't found. It's remembered. It's been waiting under the surface, beneath layers of social roles, family programming, trauma, and fear. To walk this path is to reclaim what was lost. Every dream abandoned for practicality. Every truth silenced for acceptance. Every emotion swallowed to keep the peace. Carl Jung's work was never about theories locked in books. It was a mirror held up to the soul, daring us to look. And when we do, we begin to see that real freedom isn't the absence of responsibility or discomfort. It's the release of everything that is not truly you. This is how you awaken. This is how you come home to yourself. If this message resonates with your soul, repeat after me. I am becoming whole. I embrace every part of me, light and shadow. Let this be your declaration. And if this speaks to you, like, subscribe, and share this with someone on their journey to wholeness. 5. Dreams are messages from the soul. Carl Jung believed that dreams are not just nighttime hallucinations. They are sacred messages from the soul, written in symbols. Each dream, no matter how strange or fleeting, carries deep spiritual wisdom. A snake, a mirror, a tunnel. These are not meaningless images. They are the unconscious mind's way of guiding you, of telling you something your waking self refuses to see. The soul doesn't shout. It whispers through images while you sleep, hoping you'll pay attention. When you see a tunnel in your dream, it may not be fear chasing you, but transformation calling. The darkness could mean you're walking through a season of the unknown, preparing for something new. A mirror may be asking you to face yourself, to see clearly the truths you've hidden from your own eyes. A snake, rather than signaling danger, often represents deep change, healing, and even rebirth. Jung saw these symbols as a living language, crafted by the unconscious to bring healing, insight, and wholeness. Ignoring them means ignoring the soul's attempt to guide you back to your true path. In daily life, it's easy to dismiss dreams. You wake up, shake off the images, and jump into routine. But each time you ignore these messages, you're pushing your soul's wisdom further into the shadows. And what lives in the shadows doesn't disappear. It directs your life without your knowledge. That's why Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The patterns that trap you, the emotional reactions you don't understand, the repeated mistakes they all stem from, ignored inner truths. Your dreams are trying to free you from this. We spend so much time looking for answers outside of ourselves. We chase clarity in books, advice, noise. But the answers were always within, carried by symbols, delivered in silence. Your dreams are your soul's letters, personal, mysterious, and meant only for you. And yet most people never open them. They call them nonsense, randomness, or worse, ignore them completely. In doing so, they abandon their deepest compass. Dreams are not just psychological phenomena. They are spiritual experiences. Each night is a journey inward, a chance to reconnect with what matters most. To listen is to grow. To understand is to heal. And to act on what you've seen is to walk the path of transformation. When you begin to truly pay attention to your dreams, you stop living on autopilot. You stop being driven by unconscious fears. You start choosing your path with clarity and intention. The soul finally feels heard. This is spiritual wisdom in its purest form when your inner world becomes your teacher. The freedom you seek in the outer world begins the moment you decide to listen to what your dreams have been telling you all along. Comment below, I honor the wisdom of my dreams, if you're ready to listen to the messages your soul has been trying to send you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more insights that awaken your inner truth. 6. Archetypes can possess or empower you. When archetypes remain unconscious, they don't simply influence your behavior, they quietly take control of it. The hero, for example, might seem admirable on the surface. It pushes you to help, to protect, to be strong for others. But when this archetype operates without your awareness, it can become a trap. You find yourself constantly saving others while neglecting your own well-being, burning yourself out, for praise you may never receive. The strength that drives you begins to hollow you out from within. You're no longer acting from choice, but from compulsion. That's not empowerment. That's possession. The same is true for the wounded child. It quietly rules your emotional world, making you chase validation, approval, and affection, often from the very people who hurt you. It tells you that love must be earned, that your voice only matters if someone else listens. And without realizing it, you live in reaction, not intention. You let this archetype shape your relationships, your self-image, even your purpose. You feel small, stuck, and dependent, all while thinking you're just being sensitive or loyal. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." These words are not just psychological insight. They are a direct call to spiritual awakening. Because in truth, what you call personality is often just a set of inherited patterns. Archetypes are ancient energies, not personal flaws. But when they remain hidden, they blind you to your own freedom. The moment you see them clearly, everything changes. What once controlled you begins to inform you. What once drained you becomes your power source. The hero becomes a conscious mission, not a compulsive rescue. The wounded child becomes emotional depth, not emotional weakness. The victim becomes a survivor. Even the inner critic, the voice that once shamed you, can become your precision tool for self-refinement, no longer an enemy, but an ally. This is not a one-time insight. It is a path of ongoing inner work, and it marks the beginning of spiritual maturity. To awaken spiritually is to see through the stories you've lived unconsciously and choose new ones rooted in awareness, not fear. The patterns don't disappear. They evolve. You don't get rid of your archetypes. You learn to work with them. You embody them with clarity and balance. You stop reacting and start responding. And in this response, you reclaim your power, not just to survive, but to live with purpose, with presence, with peace. Spiritual wisdom isn't about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you who to be. And to do that, you must shine a light into the deepest corners of your inner world, not to destroy what's there, but to understand it, transform it, and ultimately transcend it. That is the real meaning of spiritual awakening. If this message helped you see your inner patterns more clearly, don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on transforming unconscious archetypes into your greatest source of power. 7. Jung's work is more relevant than ever. In today's overstimulated world, where everything demands our attention and nothing truly satisfies the soul, Carl Jung's insights have never been more relevant. He understood that the true crisis of modern man would not be material, but spiritual, a deep inner emptiness masked by outward busyness. We scroll endlessly, chase success, and stay distracted, not because we are fulfilled, but because we are afraid to stop and feel the weight of what's missing. Jung warned, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's exactly what's happening now. Our anxiety, depression, and identity confusion are symptoms of a deeper disconnect from the inner self, from the unconscious, from the soul. Freedom doesn't come from escaping pain or chasing pleasure. It begins with turning inward. Jung believed that the path to wholeness comes not through denial, but through integration, facing the shadow, embracing our contradictions, and making peace with what we've buried. In a world obsessed with performance and perfection, this message feels radical. but it is the only way to true healing. When you avoid the uncomfortable truths inside you, you become enslaved to them. When you confront them, you gain power over your own life. A woman I once knew had everything: status, success, and security, but still felt hollow. After years of numbing herself with achievement, she finally broke down. In therapy, she was introduced to Jung's concept of individuation. Slowly, she began to uncover the forgotten parts of herself: the child who never felt safe, the teenager who silenced her creativity, the woman who pretended confidence to hide fear. As she embraced these inner truths, she found a strength that didn't depend on anyone's approval. She stopped performing and started living. That is the power of Jung's work. It doesn't make life easier, but it makes life real. Jung never offered shortcuts. He didn't promise instant transformation or feel-good solutions. What he offered was a path that required courage, the path of spiritual awakening through self-knowledge. He believed that we are not just minds and bodies, but souls longing to be understood. And until we listen to that longing, we will stay stuck repeating the same patterns, falling into the same relationships, facing the same emptiness. Jung's message is not one of judgment, but of invitation. He invites us to explore the unconscious, to decode our dreams, to understand the archetypes that live within us, and to reclaim the parts of ourselves we've lost. The spiritual wisdom he left behind reminds us that healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who we've always been beneath the masks. And as you walk this path, you begin to see clearly. Your suffering has meaning, your fears are teachers, and your soul has always been guiding you home. To honor your journey toward deeper truth and inner clarity, declare your commitment. Comment below, "I choose soul over noise," to affirm your path and inspire others to reconnect with what truly matters. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mind of Carl Jung. Remember, true freedom begins the moment you become aware of the unconscious forces shaping your life. The path to awakening isn't always easy, but it's the only path that leads to real power, healing, and inner peace. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Make sure you turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos filled with insight, depth, and transformation. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and keep walking the path of wisdom.